When I was in second or third grade, I was still young enough to see the world as a playground, untouched by the weight of real danger. My memories from that time are hazy, like faded photographs, but one night stands out with chilling clarity, a night that reshaped my childhood and left me with a lingering fear of the dark. It was a rainy school day, the kind where the sky seemed to unleash its fury in relentless sheets of water. The streets were slick, the air heavy with the scent of wet asphalt. My parents, always busy with their social obligations, had to attend an upscale event that evening, a fundraiser, perhaps, or a dinner party. The details escape me now. They picked me up from school, their faces tight with the stress of the day, and after a quick dinner at home, they left me alone. The storm had worsened, turning roads into rivers, and they called to say they'd stay at a friend's house closer to the event. Their voices crackled through the house phone, heavy with guilt. "Lock all the doors and windows," my mom instructed, her tone firm but laced with worry. "Keep a light on, close the blinds, and don't open the door for anyone." I nodded, even though she couldn't see me, promising I'd be fine. At that age, I didn't grasp why they were so insistent. To me, being home alone was an adventure, a rare chance to eat candy and stay up late without rules. Our house was a cozy two-story in a quiet suburban neighborhood, the kind where everyone knew each other's names. The living room, with its plush couch and old CRT television, was my sanctuary that night. I sprawled out with a bowl of gummy worms, flipping through channels, the rain hammering against the windows like an angry drumbeat. The freedom was exhilarating. I told myself I'd do my mom's checklist right before bed, planning to pull an all-nighter, but the sugar high faded, and the drone of the TV lulled me into a deep, unintended sleep. I woke hours later, disoriented, the room cloaked in darkness. The TV had gone into sleep mode, its screen a blank void. A chill hung in the air, sharper than it should have been. I rubbed my arms, noticing how my breath seemed to catch in the cold. It wasn't just the usual nighttime coolness. It was a bone-deep cold that made the house feel foreign. I considered curling back up under a blanket, but my mom's instructions echoed in my mind. I knew she'd somehow know if I didn't follow through. She always did. Reluctantly, I dragged myself off the couch to check the house. The living room was dimly lit by a single lamp, casting long shadows across the hardwood floor. I moved methodically, checking the front door, then the back, twisting the locks until they clicked. The windows were next, their frames rattling slightly as the storm raged outside. Every blind was closed, every window sealed tight, yet the cold persisted, seeping through the walls like an uninvited guest. I pressed my hand against a window pane, expecting a draft, but it was solid. Maybe the heater's out, I thought, too tired to dwell on it. The storm must have knocked something loose. Satisfied that I'd done my duty, I headed upstairs to my bedroom, ready to collapse. My room was on the second floor, with the large window that faced the backyard. From there, the storm's fury was undeniable. Rain battered the glass, each drop sounding like a tiny fist demanding entry. Lightning flashed, illuminating the room in stark bursts, followed by thunder that shook the walls. I wasn't afraid of storms, but the intensity made me uneasy. I climbed into bed, pulling the covers tight, but sleep wouldn't come. The cold lingered, and then I heard it, a faint creaking, like wood shifting under weight. Our upstairs was carpeted, so it couldn't have been from my room. At first, I chalked it up to the storm, maybe a tree branch swaying outside, but the sound was too deliberate, too rhythmic. It wasn't the wind. I sat up, heart pounding, straining to hear over the storm. Another creak, sharper this time. Lightning flashed again, and my eyes darted around the room, landing on the closet. The door was slightly ajar. I froze. I was certain I'd closed it before bed. I always did. My breath caught in my throat as I stared at the gap, waiting for the next flash of lightning. When it came, the room lit up, and I saw it. The door was definitely open, just enough for something or someone to slip through. Terror gripped me, but I didn't scream. I couldn't. My body acted on instinct, sliding out of bed as quietly as possible. Each step toward the door felt like wading through molasses, my heart hammering so loudly, I was sure it would betray me. I crept downstairs, my bare feet cold against the steps, and hid under the dining room table, curling into a ball. Only then did the tears come, silent, and hot. As I realized I was alone with whatever was in the house, minutes passed, or maybe hours, I couldn't tell. Then I heard it. Footsteps descending the stairs. They weren't normal steps. They were erratic, almost playful, like someone or something was hopping or stumbling down. My breath stopped as the sound grew closer, entering the dining room. From under the table, I saw them, 2 bare feet, wet and caked with mud, their skin an unnatural yellowish hue. Cuts crisscrossed the legs, as if they'd been torn through brambles. The figure moved unsteadily, swaying as if struggling to stand. Then a metallic clatter or wrench hit the floor. I bit my lip to stifle a scream. My eyes locked on the tool. If they bent down to pick it up, they'd see me. The figure stood still, too still, as if sensing me. Time stretched into an eternity. Finally, they moved on, their chaotic footsteps echoing through the house until I heard the front door open and slam shut. They were gone. I stayed under the table, trembling, unable to move. Fear and shock pinned me there, my young mind grappling with the reality of what had happened. Eventually, crept out, grabbed the wrench, and hid it in a drawer. I checked the front door. It was locked again, as if nothing had happened. Exhausted and traumatized, I crawled back to bed and passed out. The next morning, I didn't tell my parents. I was terrified they'd be angry that I hadn't locked the doors earlier. For years, I kept the incident to myself, sleeping with a nightlight and developing a deep fear of the dark. When I finally told them as a teenager, they were skeptical, but the story changed me. I learned to lock the doors every night, a habit born from a night I'll never forget. As a child, I was plagued by a recurring nightmare that haunted me every few months. For 3 or 4 years, it wasn't just a dream, it felt like a message, a warning my young mind couldn't decipher. Each time, I'd find myself floating above my bed, looking down at my sleeping body as if through a security camera. The perspective was disorienting, like being untethered from reality. I'd try to move, to swim back to my body, but I was trapped, only able to turn my head and scan the room. My bedroom was familiar, yet wrong. The digital clock on my nightstand ticked backward, its red numbers glowing unnaturally. Strange. Crayon drawings adorned the walls and dresser, childlike sketches of smiling people holding hands, always in front of a house with a blue roof. I didn't draw, yet there they were, as if planted by someone else. A toy train, one I'd lost years before, appeared in random corners of the room, its presence taunting me. The air felt heavy, charged with an unspoken threat. Each dream followed the same pattern. After noticing these details, I'd feel an urge to look at the window. When I did, a man would appear, inches from the glass. His short gray hair and the cut on his left temple were etched into my memory. He'd stare at my sleeping form, then claw at the window, his fingers scraping as if desperate to get in. I'd wake in a panic, heart racing, and check the window for signs of him, claw marks, smudges, anything. There was never a trace. The first few times, I dismissed it as a nightmare, but after the 4th occurrence, I told my parents. My mom said recurring dreams were normal for kids my age, and my dad offered to check the house with me. We found nothing, no footprints, no marks. Still, the dreams persisted, roughly every 3 months. After a 6-month break, I thought they were gone, but they returned with a terrifying twist. In this dream, everything was the same: clock, drawings, train, but the window was open. I woke paralyzed, unable to move, convinced cold air was pouring in. For 5 agonizing minutes, I imagined the man climbing through, my body frozen as my mind screamed to check the window. When I finally could move, I found it locked. I tried to prepare myself, thinking about the dream each night to lessen its power. It worked. Subsequent dreams were less terrifying. When I told my parents again, older now, they listened more closely. As I described the man's scar, their expressions shifted. They exchanged a look that told me there was more to the story. Days later, they revealed the truth. When I was a baby, a family friend named Brian, whom I called Uncle Brian, used to watch me. He had a scar on his forehead from a car accident. After a falling out, my dad banned him from our lives. They didn't say why, only that it wasn't my fault. My dad suggested the dreams were my brain processing buried memories from when I was too young to articulate them. I had no recollection of Brian, but the scar was too specific to be coincidence. Years later, after another dream, I saw movement outside my window, a flicker of shadow. I screamed for my parents, and my dad found faint footprints outside. He insisted Brian couldn't know our new address, but I wasn't convinced. The dream stopped after that, but the questions lingered. Was Brian watching me? Or was it someone else my mind linked to him? Why didn't my parents call the police that night? The uncertainty haunts me still. The last day of 8th grade was a whirlwind of excitement and nostalgia. My middle school, a sprawling campus with over 1,000 students, buzzed with the chaos of yearbook signings. Teachers collected our yearbooks and passed them around classrooms to ensure everyone could leave a message. It was a tradition, but also a recipe for mischief. Some kids slipped in cruel notes, though I'd always been spared. When I got my yearbook back, I flipped through the pages, laughing at my friends' goofy messages. Then I saw it, a signature beneath a photo of a boy. I didn't recognize Samuel Robinson. 3. His message read, "Hags, I'll be seeing you again." It was oddly formal, almost ominous. I racked my brain, but couldn't place him. Shrugging it off as a weird kid's prank, I went home, ready to celebrate the start of summer with a sleepover in my basement with my best friends, Kevin, David, and Kieran. Our basement was the perfect hangout spot, dimly lit, with a big TV and my dad's rowing machine. We gorged on Doritos and played Call of Duty, our laughter echoing as my parents slept 3 floors above. Around 2 a.m., a sharp knock on the storm door silenced us. The rhythmic tapping was deliberate, unsettling. Kieran, ever impulsive, shouted, "Who's there?" I cringed, knowing he'd just announced our presence. A cheerful, teenage voice replied, "Come around to the back door." It sounded friendly, like a friend wanting to join, but it sent a chill down my spine. Cautiously, we crept upstairs. Through the narrow glass pane by the back door, I saw a figure in the dim porch light. My heart stopped when I recognized him, Samuel Robinson III, the kid from the yearbook. My friends, oblivious to the gravity, moved to open the door, but I stopped them, explaining who he was. Sam must have seen my fear, because he gestured toward the kitchen window. Against my better judgment, I cracked it open, friends hovering behind me. I asked what he wanted, mentioning the yearbook. He smiled, saying, "Oh, you got my message." He introduced himself as Sam, and said he'd always watched me from afar, that we could have been friends. I nodded nervously, trying to keep things calm, but David called him a stalker and told him to leave. Sam's smile vanished, his face twisting into rage. He screamed insults, claiming to know personal details about me, things no stranger should know. He lunged at the window, trying to force it open. I slammed it shut and locked it as he pounded on the glass, snarling like an animal. My parents stormed downstairs, woken by the noise, and Sam bolted. My dad ran outside, but found no trace of him. The next day, we contacted the school and learned Sam had been expelled weeks earlier. His yearbook photo was included only because it was printed before his expulsion. He'd snuck into school to sign my book, a calculated act that chilled me to the core. Despite our efforts, no one could find Sam or his family. The question of how he knew my address haunted me, making our home feel like a stranger's. The incident faded into an uncomfortable memory, but it changed how I saw the world. At 22, I was living the dream fresh out of college, working a great job, and staying rent-free with my parents. My life was simple: work, gym, reading, and the occasional hike or board game. I wasn't into partying or hookups, but when my college friend Lindsay invited me, Sabrina, and Thea to her family's beach house, I couldn't resist. Lindsay's parents were wealthy neurosurgeons, and their beach house was a modern marvel, sleek, with floor-to-ceiling windows and a private beach. We decided to share a kid's bedroom with bunk beds. giggling like we were back in college. The first night, we kept it low-key, sipping White Claws on the beach and stargazing. A flickering light in the distance caught our attention, a flashlight swinging as a group approached. It was three guys, around our age, laughing and carrying beers. They seemed harmless, and we chatted easily, the night turning into a fun, tipsy hangout. Thea, always the flirt, was smitten, but I was tired and uninterested in romance. When they invited us to their place, I opted to head back, letting my friends go without me. At AM, my phone rang Lindsay, screaming that Thea and Sabrina had been kidnapped. Adrenaline surged as I threw on clothes and raced to her car. Following her frantic directions, she'd already called the police, and I sped down the empty beach road, spotting a car matching her description. I called 911, keeping my distance as instructed. Soon, police lights flashed ahead, and officers pulled three men from the SUV, finding Thea and Sabrina bound and bruised in the trunk. Lindsay later explained that after I left, the group kept drinking. When the guys suggested going to bed, Lindsay declined, wanting to check on the house. One guy got angry, yelling at her to leave. On her way back, she realized she'd forgotten her purse and returned to see the guys forcing Thea and Sabrina into the car. She called the police and me, leading to their rescue. The house belonged to an elderly couple on vacation, and the men were charged with serious crimes. Thanks to Thea's lawyer parents, the incident shattered me. I avoided beaches, late nights, and strangers, becoming withdrawn for years. The thought that I could have been a victim if I'd stayed haunted me, as did the trauma Thea and Sabrina endured. We're still close, but the beach house will always be a place of nightmares. Last 4th of July, my lifelong friend, Jimmy, invited me to a massive electronic music event he was hosting on the Jersey Shore. Jimmy's company was making waves in the music scene, booking big-name DJs at top venues. As his friend, I got VIP access, and I brought our buddy Ryan along for the ride. We arrived early, and while Jimmy set up, Ryan and I hit the free bar hard, getting progressively drunker as the night wore on. By the event's end, we were wasted, but having a blast. At the bar, we met two girls, Gianna and Marcella, who suggested we keep the party going at Marcella's beach house. They handed us drinks, and we followed them along the beach, impressed by their intelligence and charm. But after drinking, I felt strange, not just drunk, but heavy, my limbs like cardboard, my senses dulling. The feeling passed, and we reached the house, a stunning, opulent place that felt like a celebrity's retreat. Inside, Ryan and Marcella disappeared, leaving me with Gianna. She leaned in to kiss me, and then nothing. My memory cuts off, a black void spanning hours. I woke up in bushes an hour away, wearing a stranger's clothes. My phone, wallet, and keys gone. My shoes were wet, their laces missing. Ryan showed up at the same 7-Eleven, in the same state. Our phones, found in a nearby parking lot, had texts we didn't remember, sending normal-sounding messages that didn't add up. The police were skeptical, suggesting we'd just blacked out. We tried to find the house, but the owner, an older man, denied knowing Marcella. The incident felt like a deliberate setup, drugged, robbed, and dumped. But why? No cards were used, and we'd approached the girls, not the other way around. Jimmy thought we were targeted, but it didn't add up. The unanswered questions left a lingering unease, a sense that something sinister had happened, and we'd never know the full truth.